Ice Locked here with Nocturne Gaming. Gonna look at some New World today and the top 3 mining routes that I found so far. So let's get started. Alright, so the first zone we're gonna look at is Windsward. So the mining route is in the northeast of town. It does go into Everfall at times, but the reason I like this one is it's easy to run in circles. There's a few extra nodes to the south if you have some extra time available before other things start respawning. It is about a medium popularity. There are other players out here at times, so you'll get a little more, a little less, depending on when you're playing in the high peak times. But there's 13 iron clusters in the route. It takes 2 to 3 nodes per cluster, and it takes me about 7 to 8 minutes. And I've got about 100 mining skill, and I'm using star metal tools. So depending on your mining skill and the tools you're using, may be slower or faster. Let's go ahead and look at our map now. The average output of this is about 800 iron during the current patch. It's New World 1.0.3. It gets about 800 per circle that you do. Again, plus or minus a little depending on if there's other people in the area. There may or may not be all the nodes available. So as we're running around here, there are some mobs, particularly in the eastern section of the map while you're running up north. There's a couple ghost mobs that are like level 20 to 22, and there may be some lynxes in the area as well. But they should be avoidable for the most part. So even if you're a little low, you shouldn't have too big of an issue going through this map. Talking about some extras here to the south of the route, there are 7 extra iron clusters. I don't include them in the route because they're a little farther away, a little harder to get to, but I think that they're worth getting if you come to the point that you've run through and the nodes aren't respawning yet. They do take about 10 minutes from what I've found to respawn. That can change in later patches, or there's a random respawn time. So some other benefits of the route, there's some harvestable nodes that are available. These include some shock bulbs, there's 2 blight roots, and a soul spire. When you're directly in the route, you'll be able to pick them up on your way. And then if you look towards the western side of the map, there's 4 dragon glories to the south of that, and then life blooms available throughout there, and then a couple more blight roots farther to the west. Okay. So this is one of my, I'd rate this as the third of the list here, but let's move on. We're going to look at Everfall next. All right, so Everfall, this is probably my favorite route, but it's still not the most efficient. So we're going to rate this as the second one, and this is directly east of Everfall, very close to town. The nodes respawn by the time you get back to the beginning of circle, and there's a good amount of silver in the route. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I found that not a lot of people know about this route so far, so it's very good. I usually get 80% of the nodes as I'm running through, if not more, especially if I'm playing in the early morning hours or late at night. I can get this full setup, and there are 25 iron clusters. Again, 2 to 3 nodes per cluster, and it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes depending on the gear that I was using at the time. So here's the map that we're looking at today, and this is the route I use. On an average output, I get about 1,500 to 2,000 iron in the current patch, and about 800 to 1,000 silver. Again, this is New World Patch 1.0.3, and this can change depending on how they tweak the numbers and, you know, if all these nodes stay, but for now, this is what I found. There are some mobs in the western side of the map when you're running through all the hills that are some wolves that are level 6 to 7, and then when you're running on the eastern side of the map north, there are 1 to 2 skeletons that are around level 20. They're easy to avoid, so really anybody in the game can run this route. For some reason it's not very popular. Don't know. As far as extra nodes in this route, there's not any because we catch pretty much all of them as we're running through. Maybe some farther away from the route, but I don't find those efficient at all. So talking about the other mining nodes, there's 13 silver clusters in the area, 2 to 3 nodes for each of the clusters. It's a lot of silver. It's very good for jewel crafting later. And then we also have some blight root near the lake. There's 12 nodes. There's 4 nodes of rivercress, 10 nodes of earth spires spread out over the map, and 4 life blooms near the start of the route. There's also 3 silk fiber clusters to the south of the map. The very center south side of the map, there's some little worms there on the map that show the silk. So again, this is probably my favorite route. It's very good. So, but let's move on. We're going to talk about First Light next. It's my top route that I found. And so here we go with First Light. You know, they call this First Light, but it's a lot closer to Cutlass Keys. You can run down from Cutlass Keys in just a few minutes. Otherwise, from First Light, you actually have to run through all the mountains and kind of a pain to get there. So I recommend starting from Cutlass Keys to get here and then using it as your storage when refining. Some of the benefits of the route, there's a ton of other resources in this area. It's extremely lucrative, one of the few spots in the starter areas with a good amount of oil. And the negative here is it's a very popular route. There's a lot of players here, but there's so much resources that even when I'm running this, I'm still gaining a good amount. So talking about the nodes, there's 31 iron clusters in this route. Again, 2 to 3 nodes per cluster. It's a lot of iron. And it only takes about 10 to 12 minutes to run around this map with my current gear at about 100 mining and star metal tools. So here's the map. And while we're looking at this, the average output for this is about 1,000 when I'm running this. That's including all the competition in the area. And, you know, maybe a lot more if you get on like late at night or very early in the morning. I can see you getting, you know, 2,000 pretty easy by doing this route. But depends on how much competition on your server. Mobs in the area, there's level 13 to 15 corrupted humanoid mobs. Not too big of a deal. Still need a little gear though. Don't go out here too early. Extra nodes, there's 6 clusters that are not included in the route to the west. And then there's 11 more clusters to the northwest of the map, kind of the northern area. So there's a lot of stuff out here. Talking about your extra stuff, there's 2 silver nodes to the west. There's 14 oil clusters spread out all over the map. And there's 3 earth crag to the southwest, and then there's 2 blight crag to the north. Some harvesting stuff here. There is a silk fiber cluster, a hemp cluster, 6 shock bulbs, 3 earth spires, 8 blight roots, 7 river crest, 5 dragon glories, and then some rare resources. There's a floating spinefish and an earth shell turtle here. So as you can see, there's a ton of resources in this map. And I think it's great. I mean, I think this is one of the best spots so far for any kind of farming when you're looking at mining in the relatively early to even end game. Iron's needed in all kinds of things. As we upgrade our gear, we're still going to need iron, just the way that the crafting scales. So let me know what you think, guys. This has been Icelocked from Nocturne Gaming. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know down below, and we'll see you next time.